Hey guys, and welcome to my channel. My name is Lone Vic, and today it's another episode of Honest Talk, a series of videos in which I'm giving my subjective and hopefully honest, trying as I may, reviews of games that I have on my shelf, that I've played, that I've made how to play videos of. You can find them on my channel as well here, sometimes solo playthroughs as well. And today it's time for The Wolves from Pandasaurus Games, a game for 2 to 5 players about, well, steering, controlling your own pack of wolves and trying to claim the most territory before all the other players and before the game ends in order to score the most victory points, obviously. If you want to support my channel, and if you want to help it grow here on YouTube, you can click the like button under the video, hit the subscribe button, and ring the notification bell to be notified about new videos coming on my channel on a regular basis. And also in the description to the video, there is a link if you feel like buying me a cup of coffee. Thank you very much. And now, without further ado, let's talk about the good and then the not so good of The Wolves from Pandasaurus Games, and then a short summary, hopefully to help you decide whether you need this game on your shelf or not. Okay, so as usual, let's start with the good. So Wolves definitely looks nice, and that's basically what Pandasaurus Games got us used to with their titles, that they're pretty colorful, well designed, the graphics are pretty clear, easily readable and everything like that, so there is no difference here. Definitely a looker on the table, maybe no plastic minis or anything like that, you won't get to paint anything, but definitely a nice game that doesn't hurt the eye. The most important thing, I think, is the mechanic in which you pay for the actions, which is a pretty original twist in this game, and this is connected with these 6 tiles that each player gets. It's a set of tiles which have 2 types of terrain on each side, and once you need to pay for an action, you need to flip a terrain tile that corresponds to the terrain which you are doing the action on, and then you got another terrain. So this forces you to always think a few moves ahead, because performing one action and flipping a tile or 2 or 3 will cause other terrain types to be available for you for the next action, and that can trigger different possibilities. So if you are just flipping those tiles willy-nilly and whatever pops up, then probably you won't be playing this game with a lot of tactic in mind, to be honest. It's a pretty important, well integrated into the gameplay element that gives this game this kind of stop for a moment and think whether this is the best course of action for you, because every single move will have its consequence in the availability of resources, basically, because this is the only resource that you are managing in this game, and it's a pretty limited one at that. So definitely I found this mechanic very refreshing in the game, and it's a challenge to pull off a few well-planned moves in a chain over the course of a few turns, and it's very satisfying. The other thing that I liked in this game is how much player interaction there can be, and I'm saying can be because I will get back to this idea in the not so good category as well, how much player interaction there can be in this game, and it's almost exclusively negative interaction. So that's a warning as well. If you are looking for a game without negative interaction or with very, very little negative interaction, then Wolves are definitely not for you. But if you like the take that kind of feel of games, then Wolves will give you quite a few opportunities to, as a wolf, to bite your opponents on the flank, hide, definitely. So yeah, so there's that. So if you're looking for something with negative interaction, Wolves is definitely the way to go. Now, when it comes to the rules and the rule set, I wouldn't put it on a very high level of difficulty. I would say that it's like a medium, light to medium game, somewhere like on a scale of 2 to 5. It's somewhere in around 2.1, 2.2 maybe. I wouldn't go higher than that, because there are 6 actions that you can perform during the turn, and I'll once again remind you that if you want to check out the rules, there is a video on my channel as well on how to play this game. There are 6 actions that you can perform during a turn, and you choose only 2, and 2 of them can be the same actions. You need to pay for them with the resource, so that's your limitation basically, whether those actions will be available to you. But then again, those actions are quite straightforward. Moving, howling in order to control lone wolves, put a den here, upgrade a den into a lair there. All of those actions have some rules connected to them, right? So upgrading a den into a lair has to happen with a den neighboring a water source, and you have to have an alpha wolf next to the den. But those are very manageable ones, and it's pretty clear after you explain and play a few turns, all those actions fall into place, let's say, right? And when it comes to the theme of the game, I can say that it's pretty much there. You know, it's not any storyline here in this case. You've got a pack of wolves, you've got your alphas, you've got your pack wolves, you set up dens, you set up lairs, and you want to control that. You hunt animals and you control the terrain, and you have to be more efficient than all the other packs around. So it's logical. It's there and it fits, and the gameplay and the actions and the mechanics also fit. Well, maybe not paying with the terrains, but well, not everything has to be so well matched, but you know, all the actions that you do, so the howling, domination of wolves and so forth and so on, it all kind of clicks into place. Now, I've said quite a few good things about this game right now, and I'm more or less at the midpoint of this video, but now I would like to go into the not so good. And as much as I wanted to love this game, because wolves are one of my favorite animals, and I'm a dog person and everything. If you've seen my review and how to play of Dog Park, then you know that I'm a dog person. And I thought that this is going to be a game that's going to be a seller for me, even on the theme only. But I have a few things to say that are a bit on the negative side about this game. The game end triggers when you reach a certain point on this moonlight calendar, and once the game end triggers, according to the rules, you're done. There is no extra turn, there is no one more move. You just hit the trigger and let's tally up the points. This causes a few issues. Since this is an area control game and you have to manage, your pack the most efficiently, I think that it would be cool if everybody had at least the same amount of turns, the same amount of movement opportunities, the same amount of actions to make. I know that you have the extra action tokens that if you collect a few of them you can get ahead of everybody, but that's depending on your strategy and your play style, right? But I still feel that the person who rushes to finish the game first and they trigger this end game, they are kind of in a beneficial position based on that, and that's kind of caused a bit of imbalanced feelings while playing the game, especially in bigger groups. The second thing that I would say is that, and probably I think that I'm coming up to the most important one right now, is I feel that this game doesn't scale well with the number of players, and here's why, in my opinion. If you are playing this game with a maximum number of players, which is 5, every type of terrain, because there are 5 types of terrain, every type of terrain has a wolf associated with them. So each player has a type of terrain. There is the tundra wolf with the icy terrains, there is the forest wolf with the dark green terrain, the desert wolf with the obviously desert terrain, the rocky wolf with the rock terrain, and grass wolf, right? So we get 5 terrains, 5 types of wolves, each player is attached to one. If, however, you're playing with fewer players than 5, one terrain type or more will always be, let's say, a safer terrain. And here's why. The domination action, which allows you to take over a den or a pack wolf of an enemy player, requires you to pay a cost of 3 terrains. And with these tiles that you have provided here for each player, obtaining 3 terrains to flip in order to pay for a domination action is only possible if you have the basic terrain, so of your wolf color, as the third one, because this is how you will get the third terrain tile, or if you have an additional terrain token that you can spend for this action. And this causes, with fewer player counts, lower player counts than 5, this causes some terrains to be a bit safer than all the others, because if I'm playing, for example, this was very visible in a 2-player game. If I was playing a 2-player game and I saw that my opponent doesn't have any terrain tokens to spend, I knew exactly that since they are grass wolves and I'm tundra, then I can easily go on any terrain apart from grass and they won't be able to dominate me at all. So my wolves are safe there. Now, when my opponent got a terrain token, then I was like, okay, so they either will spend it for a different action or they will be able to dominate exactly one of my dens or my wolves because they have 1 terrain token, let's say. And it's not like you can obtain a crazy amount of those terrain tokens throughout the game. In the best possible scenario, most optimally played game, you will have 7 of those maximum. So it doesn't, and you don't only spend them for those domination actions, you might want to spend them for something else depending on your strategy. So that makes this game a bit less interactive between players and a bit more of a kind of tactically placing yourself out of range, which can be annoying a bit, because sooner or later the lone wolf tokens disappear from the board and you can't howl at the lone wolves in order to make them join your pack. So you are forced to dominate other players if you want to get more of your wolves on the board, but then again you can't because your opponents are basically hiding on the terrains that you don't have access to in order to dominate them. So, and in a 5-player game, the situation is totally different because no terrain is safe. Each terrain will have a player that can get those free tiles easily enough so that they can dominate you whenever they plan to do it without having to spend terrain tokens. So there is a very big discrepancy here between the play experience for lower counts in a 5-player game. And from what we've played, I feel that the 5-player game is way more satisfying because of the fact that you can't hide anywhere really. So that's the biggest gripe I think that I have with this game, and I don't want to extend this video to no end, so I'll just mention about one more and I'll go into the summary. The one more thing that I will mention is that the rulebook, while pretty well organized and explaining and having a lot of examples and a lot of pictures and explaining everything pretty well, kind of omits a few details or sleeps on a few details, and there still are a few questions, especially the one about whether the chasm in the middle of the board is a water source or not. Questions that you need to answer on forums and reading the FAQs. There was 1 or 2 self-contradictory kind of entries in the rulebook as well when it comes to the wolf movement, whether alphas can enter layers or spaces with layers or not, etc., etc. And you can find those answers in the forums, or you can deduce them from the instruction. I feel that I've done those explanations justice in my how to play video, but then again, those rules about the movement of the wolves and which ones can be on spaces with which wolves and which ones can't enter spaces here, or what pieces can't be on the same space, and so forth and so on, they are pretty longish. There are quite a few of those rules, and sometimes it's easy to forget 1 or 2 of them, especially when you're playing for the first or second time. After a few playthroughs, it kind of gets into your system and you kind of understand how it works, but at first glance, a bit over-complicated, maybe. But, well, then again, that's the mechanic and the story of the game. But I still think that a few more examples and a bit of a more detailed explanation, or at least we've got player aids for the actions. I would also happily see a player aid for those rules about what pieces can be with what other pieces in a hex and so forth and so on. That would also be great as a cheat sheet or some kind of player aid to have. Summing up, Wolves, a great game if you like negative interaction. If you're looking for negative interaction in Wolves, it will be there, barring lower player counts where you can hide in less accessible places, which will cause the interaction to be lower. It's very colorful, the iconography is very well designed and it's very clear. The rule set is pretty user-friendly, it's not a very heavy game, and it gives you a lot of satisfaction. It sits well in its theme. When it comes to the negatives, well, you can rush pretty easily to the end of the game sometimes, so the end of the game can be triggered very spontaneously at some points, and you still got a few actions in you that you would like to do. And, well, lower player counts, in my humble, subjective, honest opinion, not as satisfactory as a full player count game. And that's it, ladies and gentlemen. Those were the Wolves, and my name is Lone Vic. If you liked this review, if you found it helpful and informative in any way, you can always show your support and appreciation for my channel by clicking the like button, hitting the subscribe below the video, and ringing the notification bell as well. And if you feel like it, in the description to the video there is a link to buy me a cup of coffee. And, well, see you in another of my videos here on my channel very, very soon. Hopefully. It was nice seeing you all here, and have a great evening, day, depending on the time zone and the region of the world you're in, and enjoy yourselves. Thank you very much. Bye bye.